Okay, I am absolutely delighted to welcome you to the show. Priyanka, thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm really excited about talking to you.
Like, what in the world with this background of yours? That is not fair. That's how you do a Zoom background. Well done.
I found the most beautiful looking background in my house and something that felt alive. And, because I knew I was going to be doing so much
Of
promo for
course.
my movies, my book.
Yep.
So I was just like, I'm going to commit to this Zoom thing and not worry about,
Yeah,
most people are waiting for it to come back to normal. It's not going to happen for a while. So just find the
that's
best
right.
looking background, buy lights from Amazon, and get going.
That's literally it. I mean, this is our life. I think we have another 6 months of this. And then if I never see another Zoom again for the rest of my life,
Definitely,
it will just be
definitely.
too soon. Okay, well, let me start here with you, since we're kind of in the subject. Before we kind of jump into all your incredible work right now, what what has this past year been like for you? I'm curious what this has looked like in your family. How have you been feeling? How have you guys managed it? Did you circle in tight? Did you have a pod? How did you do?
I have to say this was a gift for me. I mean, I'm
Mm,
someone who never has my feet in one city, and
yeah.
me and my husband both have extremely individual careers. So being 6 months at home is an insane thought in my reality. I don't think I haven't done that in like 25 years at
Totally.
least. So I felt very blessed about having that time, and I
Mm,
definitely incubated. Um, we were me, my cousin, her family, my family, and one more friend. So it was a bunch of us that quarantined for the first 4 months together,
nice.
which was really nice to be able to
Yeah.
have each other. And, we had a kid in the mix. My niece was with us as well. So that was really nice. Dogs and kids,
Yeah.
my favorite.
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
it gave me a lot of time to time that I would have probably never had. I
Mm.
finished writing the book because I had that time, and I have to say it gave me a sense of gratitude and peace.
Well, speaking of that, that's a perfect segue because I want to tell you congratulations on Unfinished, on your memoir. And you've done just a beautiful job with it. Absolutely beautiful. I'd like to talk, first
Thank
of
you.
all, about the title for just a second, because you actually named the title of your book years before you wrote it, right? Can you talk about that and tell me what the title Unfinished means to you, how you settled on it? How was that kind of a North Star for you long before the words were actually on a page?
Well, I was doing 73 questions for Vogue, and they ask you all of these questions: what if, what if, what if? And so they asked me, what if you wrote a memoir on your life? Like, what would it be called? And I was being cheeky, so I said unfinished because there's so much I want to do, and there's so
Sure.
much that I've left behind.
Mm.
And I sort of felt like a combination of the two. And then when I actually signed on to write a book, and it ended up being a memoir. I think my first instinct was that title, and it was just so apt for everything that I was feeling, everything that the book ended up being, that it couldn't have been anything else.
I'm so curious how you found, and because obviously you're a creator, you're a content creator constantly, but how did you find the writing process? I'm a writer too, and it's kind of like a
And an
love
amazing one
hate.
at that.
That's sweet that you're being nice, but I'm telling you, tell me there were not days where you're like, why am I doing this? Why did I start this?
Absolutely.
Yes.
Absolutely. And you can't leave it because you have a publisher,
Yeah.
It's even
They already paid you for
worse.
it. Like you have to do it.
No, you have to finish it. And oh my gosh, there was so many days. And doing this for the first time, I was
Yeah.
terrified. I was like, I'm never going to be able to finish this book.
Yeah.
It's too much. And I quit. There was so
Uh-huh.
many days that I felt like doing that. But you power through it.
You do.
But I have to recommend it.
Yeah.
There's merit in, when you see those pages and they're in front of you, there's such a permanence to a book. I have books which are hundreds of years old, and
Sure.
there's history in them, and to be able to be a part of that a very elite club that I'm very excited
It
to sort of
is.
step into.
It's special. It really is
It's very
special. There is a
special.
moment, especially in a memoir, where you've put your life on the page. I mean, you really did. You put it in there and with a lot of vulnerability, which is a little scary. It can be. I mean, you're obviously already in the public eye, but it feels a little different when you're writing it in your own words.
I
Um,
think the biggest difference is I may have been, you know, more than half my life I've been in the public eye, but, you know, we kind of figure out a way of really not being public.
that's
You kind of
true.
get away with just telling people just that
You're
much
right.
that you don't really ever expose your real self. You just
It's
do
true.
enough for people to believe that you are.
Right.
And you know, it's the art of being a
Yeah,
public person.
that's right.
That's what the book does differently. Like it goes
Yeah.
deeper than I've ever been, because I've always
Yeah.
been ferociously private, you know,
Mm,
about real things, about like really who I am, what I was
mm,
thinking. I've always had like an armor up when it comes
yeah.
to, um, you know, being the person I am, the woman I am. And here I don't know why, maybe I was writing it during quarantine. I just went to all of those places
Mm.
and I,
What
I
for
came out the other side enjoying it.
Listen, that's a miracle. Like if you come out on the other side and you're like, I might have a second book in me, then that is a success. I'm curious for you because it's so obviously deeply personal. Were there parts of the project that for you were hard to revisit or harder to write through or harder to work through? Or were there any moments where you thought, I don't know if I can include this?
I mean, yes, of course, there are things in everyone's lives that you're just like, this is not for public consumption.
Hmm.
Like, this is mine.
Yeah.
And of course, there are so many of those things, but there are also so many of those things that I was like, I am distant enough from it
Yeah.
that it doesn't affect me anymore. I am at a much more confident place that my insecurities of my past don't affect me anymore. And those things I included, which I would have been terrified to include a couple of years ago, maybe.
Sure. Well, that's
Um,
incredible.
yeah, I felt like that was a growth for me
Yeah.
personally as well, to sort of accept that, you know, I have a public profession and
Hmm.
I am for public consumption. A big part of my life is, you know, books have been written about me and people write about me almost all the time. And, you know, if I was going to throw something into the mix,
Hmm.
like it had to be more than what was already out there. And
Yeah.
that was the only way I would find it interesting too, right?
Hmm. I wonder if just for a minute, because your life has been so interesting, there's so many fascinating things that you have to pull from and write about. And as you mentioned a minute ago, you've essentially spent your entire life on the go, just place to place. And but you spent your growing up years in India. I wonder if you could talk about that portion of your life for just a minute. And did you see this path for you as a little girl? Did you have a clear eye on what you wanted to do, what you loved, what was possible for you, or does your life surprise you?
Oh, every moment.
Mm.
I'm not a planner. I don't like it. You want to tell God a joke? Tell her your plans.
Sure.
I'm a believer of that.
Mm.
And ever since I was a kid, like, you know, I never had a sense of permanence. My parents were in the military. We always moved around. Every 2 years, we were in a different place. I moved to America when I was a teenager, came back to India. It was just like so much flux that that's my normal.
Mm.
I never really required routine or, you know, sort of a material desires. I'm good to just pack a bag and,
Mm.
you know, go somewhere new. I've always had a sense of adventure, but I think that, um, you know, my childhood plays a really important part in
Mm.
who I ended up, who I've ended up becoming, because my parents raised me, um, very confident. They raised
Mm.
me with a sense of self. You know, I was never told not to have an opinion in a room where people disagreed. In fact, it was encouraged. It was like, oh, wait, what do you have to say about that? And I'm like 6 years old, and I'm like, oh, I don't agree. Tell us why.
That's
You know, my
good.
parents always leaned
Mm.
into my individuality. They always encouraged, me being different, and every year I wanted to be something else. I wanted to be. It was never entertainment, by the way. That was never a reality. I
Well,
didn't even know that was a
a thing.
possibility. Yeah, that doesn't happen to normal people.
Sure.
Like, at least at that time, that's what I thought. And I was kind of thrown into it without expecting. But I'm a competitive person, and you throw me into the deep end, I'll swim.
Yeah, and you have indeed. What was it like to move to the United States as a teenager? Did you like that? Did you not like? I'm just. That feels like a real big swing.
Well, I kind of chose the swing. And
Mm,
because my parents were the way they were, they kind of let me swing at
yeah.
12.
Gosh.
I came to visit
Wow.
my family, my mom's sister, and my cousins, who I was very close to, lived here. And I came for summer vacation,
Mm,
and I was blown away by a couple of things. So I'm a teenager, right? You're like at
yeah.
13, just about discovering that you're a girl, body's
Sure.
changing, boys, all the things are happening. And I went to visit this high school just to check out high schools in America. And, girls were wearing shorts, and they were wearing makeup and had
Mm.
their hair did. And my teenage vanity was so excited because back in India,
Totally.
we always wore
Yeah.
uniforms.
Yeah.
Everyone looked the same. You had to there had to be uniformity. There's a
Oh yeah.
formality. But high school in America was like Saved by the Bell or Beverly Hills
Totally.
90210 in my head.
It's awesome.
And I was like, that's what I want. But of
Yes.
course, I didn't tell my parents that at the time.
Yeah.
At the time, I told them that, I just wanted to try something
Sure.
new
Sure.
and a new experience. And my mom kind of let me have it. And I
Yeah.
lived with my family for a few years, but it was really funny, my reasosoning for wanting to do it.
Oh, listen, teen girl vanity is reason enough to change countries. I
And it's
mean, that
real.
is so real. And what a right time to do it. I want to talk to you a little bit about just kind of how, with such tenacity, you have created this extraordinary life. Just looking through just your basic bio, your movie credits to your name, how many of them there are, the organizations you've worked with, the projects that you've taken on, that you've chosen to put your energy toward. It just is really obvious that you are a person who values like hard work. You're a hard worker, and there's such a place for that. I always have found hard work very noble. I'm one of those who love to really go all in on things that I care about. So this phrase is trite. I wish I had a better phrase, but when it comes to like our dreams and really kind of chasing them, imagining them possible, but then putting our feet on the ground and getting after them. How much do you think, maybe just based on your experience, is there some sort of combination here of luck and hard work? Like, what's the percentage here? How does this play out for you?
Well, I think perseverance is a big part of it.
Yeah, I do too.
I think creating or recognizing opportunity is also a big part of it. Having the tenacity to be able to look through your circumstances, having hunger in your belly
Yeah.
for more, constant more. That's not something that just happens for a year, or ambition is, the more you hone it, the sharper it becomes. And
Mm.
then you have the ability to look through the crowd and say, all right, that's an opportunity. I could do this with that. And I think that for that, you have to have a sense of risk.
That's
You have
right.
to enjoy taking risks. You have to be okay with failing and then
Mm.
saying, all right, I tried that sucked. I'm going to
Yeah.
dust myself off, pivot, and try something else.
Mm.
Because we live in the time of information right now. Anything is a
It's
possibility. The
true.
ideas are endless. We can make a career out of anything. And at one time when I was a kid, there were like 5 options from where I was
Totally.
growing up. And you become a doctor, you become an engineer, you become a lawyer, accountant. Like there were those things.
Hmm.
But now it's like endless. And I feel like it's such a great time for all of us as people with ambition and desire, no matter where you are, what your circumstances are, invest in your dreams. And the only way to invest in your dreams are actually putting boots to the ground.
That's right.
And, finding what the next thing is, making a PDF, writing it down. You have an idea, find a gap, find someone who'll talk to you about it, put it on paper, make it tangible. There's something really powerful about that.
There is. You're completely speaking my language right now, but it's so interesting, as sort of brazen as America can be. In some ways, this is not a message that women have traditionally received here. It's I would call it more rare than not to have to find a woman who has that outlook, that worldview to say, scan the horizon and say, I could do that. That could be me. That could be my role. I can do that just as well or better. I'm willing.
Jen, I think that's a universal thing. I don't think it's just an American woman thing. I think females generally, society has for such a long time decided the trajectory of our lives.
Totally.
When we should be doing what, This is a time for them to have a job. This is when you become a mom. This is when you get married. This is when you do this. This is when you do that. This is when you date. This is when you don't date. Who are you to decide that?
That's right.
And that's exactly, to me, my feminism, right? It's like my feminism is equal opportunity, the freedom to make the choices that I want to make for my individual life, just the way men have enjoyed for such a long time. They have the freedom to make, decisions for their individual lives. So I think that's why it's so important for us as women to talk about ambition and to normalize ambition for girls. And we have the ability to juggle it all. Yeah. No one is saying that, it makes you like, there's so many times women hear that, you're not a great mom or you're not a good enough mom if you have a job and if you're working and you have kids. I was raised by working parents and I truly, my heroes are my parents because they gave me such a loving, confident upbringing as a child. Most of my book is a testament to my childhood and how my parents raised me. But they're doctors. I mean, they would be gone, but I was included in whatever they did, and the idea is to create safety.
That's good.
Not boxes. It's the safety of being able to say, this is what I want to do. This is the kind of family I have. This is the kind of job I have. Compartmentalize and let each part of it be a part of you. One doesn't have to compete with the other. Like, I'm very clear about my family time. And I shut the door on work when I come back home, and I shut the door on family when I go to work.
Sure.
I'm very clear about being able to prioritize both because they're both important. Doesn't mean they have to be mutually exclusive.
No, it doesn't. That binary idea is quickly falling by the wayside. We've never had, it's just such an exciting time to be an ambitious woman because we are surrounded by role models right now. And then of course, this next generation, these are not their trappings. I have a 20-year-old daughter and it would never even occur to her to make these choices, that it's either this or that choosing this means you are not choosing it. That's not even in her vernacular. And so that's exciting. It's exciting to see this next generation come behind us, what they're going to do. Here's a mind-blowing stat for you. Back in 1960, 95% of the clothing that Americans bought was made in the US. 95%. Today, 3%. So if you're thinking about putting your dollars toward more sustainable products, you have to check out one of my favorite retailers called American Giant. Okay, so American Giant is really cool, you guys. They're a clothing retailer with a 100% American-based supply chain, which means obviously every single piece of clothing was made right here in the US. I have an American Giant hoodie, a zip-up hoodie, and an American Giant long sleeve t-shirt. And the very second I took them out of the package and put them on, I'm not trying to exaggerate. The quality is next level. Like, you put them on and go, oh, what in the world? The hoodie, it's thick and hefty, super soft inside, fitted. You can already tell this is leveled up. This is a very leveled up sweatshirt. And then their t-shirts have like a real weight to them too. They drape just right. They're just very well constructed. And so for me, they'll be staple pieces in my wardrobe for a long, long, long time. Plus, It's really never been more important to shop local, you guys. I am so happy that I can help support these people in our own communities right here. So you can get 15% off your first order when you use promo code For the Love at American-Giant.com. So it's 15% off. Use the code For the Love at American-Giant.com. There are many paths to finding your family story, whether you trace your family generations back with a family tree or you uncover your ethnicity with Ancestry DNA. It's super easy to get started. An Ancestry DNA test tells you where your ancestors are from. And Ancestry's billions, like with a B, billions of records and millions of family trees let you discover their personal stories. You could find a famous relative, who knows? Or perhaps a photo of your great grandma as a little girl. Whatever you find, it's sure to change the whole way you look at your family history, which, let's be honest, is the story of you and worth knowing. It's truly amazing what you can learn about yourself in Ancestry. I can trace my family's path from the UK to the US, step by step. And it's pretty crazy to see your family story laid out clearly right in front of you. Most of my family members aren't around to tell their stories anymore, and yours aren't either, but Ancestry is helping to keep them alive. Start exploring your family story today. Head to my URL at ancestry.com/forthelove to get your Ancestry DNA kit and start your free trial. Free, yay. That's ancestry.com/forthelove. All right, back to our show. I would love to see women. I think the hurdle here, I'm curious what you think, because you've kind of grown up in a powerfully confident environment. I think the hurdle for a lot of women behind their ambition is criticism. And I mean, to hear a lot of women talk about it, you'd think it would literally take them out physically. But in fact, it will not.
What do you mean?
Meaning the aversion to criticism, to critique, to having your family members or your community come alongside of you and say, this is going to be really hard on your kids. If you choose this job, you are not choosing your children, or whatever the thing is. Or here's your glass ceiling. We're more comfortable if you stay just under it, or we like you in this role, but not this one. And this whole idea that there might be opposition to confidence, ambition keeps a lot of women sidelined. And in fact, we can survive that. We sure can.
I just think that the perspective, let's pivot the perception. Okay, let's pivot the perspective. Whenever there's a revolution, which is what ambition to me is, okay? Ambition is someone set a glass ceiling and I'm going to break that and, push the goalpost. And whenever there's a revolution, there's always going to be resistance. That's just the nature of how it is and how it will be. So I think instead of looking outside at all those voices that are critiquing and are trying to be, boulders to our movement, I think it's important, instead of looking at them, to look inside and see that this is your journey. And all of those people with all the things that they have to say are not putting food on your table.
That's right.
They're not going to come and take care of your kids when they're crying at night. They're not going to come and do any of it. You are responsible for the life that you're going to make for you, your children, your family. And it is your priorities that matter. That's it.
That's it.
It really does. And, you need to sort of, the noise just becomes white noise when you start prioritizing what is really important and not other people's opinions.
That's right. And then there is something just very powerful about going ahead and living a beautiful life. And it speaks for itself. And yes, and it's unimpeachable at that point when you have prioritized what it is that you love and care about. And so that's a drum I beat as well. I'm curious, you've obviously mentioned your parents, which I love to hear you talk about. I love a daughter of powerful parents who you're close with still. That's special. Who are some of your other, like if you had to point to some of your greatest cheerleaders along the way at pivotal moments, who else looked at you and said, no, keep going. You can do this. This is your deal. You are capable of this.
I have to say I've been very blessed by, family that has always surrounded me, my extended family, my cousins, my mom's sisters who I grew up with, or my dad. Family's a large network of my family is a very big part of who I am, the support system. But outside of that, even professionally, co-actors along the way, people who believed in, especially my team. I have people in my team that have worked with me for 15 years, 10 years, 8 years, and it's predominantly a band of women. I have a few guys scattered in there too.
Sure, me too.
It's predominantly like boss women who
me too.
have always seen me for, more than I saw myself. And surrounding yourself with strong people who can give you an honest opinion and also sort of push you, but at the same time hold you up is very important. The balance of that.
Absolutely.
And I have to say, like, that's been one of my greatest strengths.
For all the many hats that you wear and have worn, which runs the gamut, actor and producer and UNICEF ambassador, and of course now wife and daughter and friend, now author. What was one of the moments, either a specific project or maybe even a specific role, if you want to widen out the lens a little bit, where it was an incredible challenge for you, and you thought, I don't know, this is new. This maybe is harder than I thought, or different than I thought, or I'm having to flex some whole new muscles that I've never used before. And then you got to the other side of it, or you're still in it, and thought 100% worth it, worth the risk, worth the learning curve, worth the failures along the way.
Well, when I first, about 10 years ago, this is pivoted to America, I started doing music. I was signed as a recording artist with Interscope Records. Jimmy Iovine was literally A&R my record himself, and was really a mentor of mine. And I was like, but never done it before. I'd never really professionally sang. And it was just new waters, and I tried it. I had a couple of singles out, but I kind of fell short of my own creative standards, and I just left it unfinished. I just kind of was like, I'm going to pivot to something that I know.
Yeah.
And I started acting in the US. And now looking back, if I hadn't done the music and I hadn't sort of left it unfinished and pivoted towards working in America, I probably would not have come here, So I feel like it's a combination of destiny and its plans for you in the larger scheme of things, and how you navigate that.
I'm so happy that you said that example, because one of the lines that you wrote in the book, which stuck with me and stayed with me, is when you said, to your exact point you're making, it's okay to pick up, walk away, leave things unfinished, and move on to what's next, if that's what your journey requires to get to the next destination. I really love that. This is not something we hear a lot. It really isn't. There's this different sort of ethos around never quit, never ever stop before the finish line. Tenacity is what matters. Persistence is what matters. And sometimes it is. But this is also true. Both of these things can be true. And I'm in a place of like this right this second to walk away from something that is unfinished. And I feel it rub up against my work ethic. And so if you could just parse it out a little bit more, you just have started that conversation here, but I'd like to hear you talk more about what is that internal toggle for you when you know, okay, it's time to walk away from this one. And what's the difference between it's time to double down and see it through?
Well, I think it's trying to differentiate if it's your pride talking or if
Good point.
This is actually going to work.
Great point.
It's to be able to have humility to say, is it really good? Would you buy it? Or is it just your pride because you're like, oh, if I'm not good at it, I have failed. It's as simple as that to me. When I now, having been in performance arts where my job is literally critiqued by everyone who consumes it,
right.
I've kind of come to critique it myself well enough. I can see something and be like, would I watch this? Or am I would it be something I would do? Do I want to invest my time in it? And if it's not good enough,
good.
it's okay. Just you dust yourself off, try something else, because otherwise you get stuck, and being stuck is worse. You gotta have movement. And the way to decide, you know, which direction to go into is just by figuring out if it's your pride that's getting hurt, or if it's, actually what you're focusing on is good.
That's hard to admit sometimes, and sometimes hard to suss out. I am very skilled at operating out of pride and calling it commitment, or
Absolutely. Most of us are.
yes,
But I think
that's
no one else can tell you that except yourself. And that's that conversation you have with your conscience before you go to bed. I think it's very important for all of us to kind of get real with ourselves.
I like that.
Before you go to sleep at night. It's a solitary time. Just,
Yeah.
before sleep comes, you have all those million thoughts. And I really pivot those thoughts with having a real conversation about how I'm feeling, to touch base with myself, just like you would with a girlfriend, and get real and say, today was or today was awesome, and this is not nice, and this is something I want to change. And it's a great way of waking up the next morning feeling like you have solutions.
It's also interesting too, to the example you used just a minute ago. One thing I've learned as just a creator too, that I have a lot of channels, is that nothing is ever wasted, even if it's unfinished. It's never wasted. You just don't know what it is you picked up in that thing, in that project, in that attempt, that you will use again. It taught you something. It showed you something. It revealed something, perhaps. Or in some strange way, it was a stepping stone to the next thing. And so I've learned to not see those things as wasted. Like, oh God, I wasted my time.
But yeah, and I think that's such a natural way people think. You're just like, oh, this was 5 years of my life.
Yeah.
Like, failed business or a failed relationship or failed anything, or something, you feel like you want to leave. You're just like, oh, so mad at yourself. But I think, it's like carrying baggage. Those feelings about something that's done and over with, you gotta dust yourself off and be like, bye,
Yeah.
thank you, next.
Yeah.
Because you can't be carrying so much excess baggage when you're trying to walk forward.
It's so true.
When people read a book, you don't read backwards. You're always trying to go forward, and that's how we got to treat life. And instead of trying to dissect it and even think about what we learned or what came out of it, forget it. Where are you going next? And maybe along the way, 5 years later, you'll realize the reason that thing happened to you, or maybe you won't, but that's not for you to figure out.
Yeah, I really love that. I do. There is a moment that we just get to choose. It is a choice to eventually, at some point, say, all right, what do I get from this? What do I get to take with me? And what can I let this teach me if I'll listen, if I'll be a learner, if I'll be a student of that thing? What can I, and then bless it and go. Bless it and just go. And
you've got to say that.
Yes, absolutely. Let me ask you this one last.
Otherwise,
it's too heavy, especially I'm thinking about, this year's been so heavy for so many people. Loss is ubiquitous. Everybody has lost. Everybody has suffered. This year didn't give hardly any of us what we expected it to. And so even now, and I had experienced a ton of loss in this year that was unexpected for me too. And I am asking myself this question right now: what can this teach me if I'll listen? And I'm in that little space. But then also turning my eyes to the horizon and going, okay, there's a lot left to learn, see, do, and experience. So onward. And that feels like a weight that just it lifts if and when we can kind of turn that corner. But some people never do. It's easy to get stuck there. You can live there. That can be your zip code for the rest of your life.
I mean, it's seductive, isn't it?
Yeah.
Sadness. It calls at you, and it's, it makes you feel like it's comfortable, and it wants you to, it's like a blanket. And
sure.
A lot of people live in that, but I think it really is recognizing and accepting that grief or a sense of loss that comes from failure or having lost someone is never really going to go away. So let's not try to be like, oh, when am I going to get over it? You're not. It's going to stay with you. I think it's important to make friends with grief. It's sort of like your companion in life. It hangs out with you, and there'll be days where it'll stay for dinner and, maybe stay the night, or there'll be days it'll come for just tea. And maybe there'll be days you don't hear from them. As soon as you have a certain acceptance of the fact that acceptance is the largest, I think, most important thing to feel liberated and free, is the acceptance of loss. We're all going to have it.
That's right.
In life. And there is something powerful about knowing that you're not alone in it.
That is, I love that. I love everything that you just said. That eventually grief can just be a companion that visits occasionally. Not your constant co-driver.
Not your baggage. No, not at all. It doesn't even define you.
That's right.
But as soon as you let it go, you take away the power. You're not letting go of the person you've lost or the feeling of the loss. You're letting go of the power it has over you.
That's good.
By accepting that it's here. It's okay.
It is what it is.
I'm going to think about it. Yeah. And it is what it is. And it's okay to think about it. And it's okay to cry about it. And then a couple of hours later, you'll be fine.
Great stories are powerful, right? That's why I love this podcast. We get to hear people from all walks of life talking about their obstacles and their wins. And you know another place we get to do that? The Jen Hatmaker Book Club. And I want you to join today, because if you love this podcast, you're going to love the book club. Here's the deal. Each month, we'll dive into a fantastic book, and we read all kinds of stuff: fiction, memoir, self-help, all of it. Every single book is something I have read and loved, and I just know you will too. After you sign up, every month, I'll send you a box with the book and other fun treats. Plus, your membership comes with a whole slew of perks. You get resources like reading plans, weekly summaries, discussion questions. Plus, you get tons of exclusive community stuff. You get access to our private Facebook group where you can connect with me and all your fellow members. And there's a monthly Facebook Live chat session with me, and sometimes some surprise guests. Sometimes I pop into the Zoom meetings of our local chapters, which is always delightful. Plus, we do some cool stuff with the book's author. They curate these awesome Spotify playlists just for us. Plus, I record a podcast with the author or another special guest, and we talk about the book. It is an incredible way to cap it all off. And you know what makes a book club great? The people. This community is the kindest, most supportive group you can possibly imagine. They have definitely been saving my life in 2020. Join us. So sign up today at jenhatmakerbookclub.com. We are here waiting to welcome you into the sisterhood with open arms. So join us at jenhatmakerbookclub.com today. Okay, back to our show.
Let me ask this one last thing before we kind of wrap it up here. I am a person who does a short game and a long game. I'm always thinking near and I'm thinking far. When you are looking toward Priyanka 10 years from now, 20 years from now, what are you hoping for her? What do you want her days to look like? What do you want her to feel? Where do you want her to be? And so what do you do now to nurture her as you look ahead?
Well, I'm also someone who's a short-term, long game kind of person. And I truly believe that today is my investment for my tomorrow.
It is.
I hope with all the decisions that I'm taking now and will take in the next 10 years, that the girl I am at that time will be happy, that's really my quest in life, is a pursuit of happiness. And I feel joy in my job. I feel joy in my home. I feel joy in my family. I feel joy in being able to create, and I pursue it. I look for that in anything that I'm doing. And I just break it down to, if you're not happy doing it, don't do it.
Yes. It's kind of simple.
It's really simple, and I'm really trying to keep it very simple for me. I'm done with drama. And I just think that if you're not happy, just, it's okay. Let it, just step away from it for a second.
So this series on the show is based around this idea of reconnecting with dreams, with each other, with our own hearts and souls and minds, with our bodies, with our neighbors and communities, as we kind of barely begin to steer toward the end of the pandemic. So this question probably looks different right now than it would a year from now. But for right now, where we're at, what life is like for all of us, what's one of your favorite ways to connect with people? What is it that brings you a sense of connection in this weirdly disconnected world right now?
Well, actually taking the steps to connect with people. Like, a lot of people just think about it, but I think, make the call, send the text, just don't think about, how much you miss your friends and how we would have been at dinner. Do a Zoom party.
Yeah.
Make the effort. I really feel like this time, the amount of time I've spent with my family and friends on FaceTime or texting, just because I've missed it so much, it's something that I'm going to take with me even after this is over. Like, I want to be able to stay in touch with people. I want to connect, and I want to talk for 15 minutes and decompress or whatever, which I didn't do before, because I was like, I'll meet them at some point.
Sure.
I think being in touch I'm actually really being in touch. That's something really good that's come out of this for me.
For me too. That's undoubtedly the highlight of quarantine, if we have to pick a highlight, which is getting off airplanes, getting back into this place that I live with my people. I'm like, there we all are. Here we are. It's possible. I won't leave that behind either. How about for yourself? What if you had to just pick a practice or two? What do you do to stay really connected to you, to your core, to your mental health and wellness?
I think it's really hard in general to be able to do that, right? But I think taking time out for yourself and your silence, whatever you might do in it, time that is not dedicated to your job or your family or to your kids, or just your time, whether that is, I don't know, scrolling on TikTok, watching your TV show, reading a book, taking a bath, whatever that might be. But I think investing in what you need, which is just time with yourself, even if it's a little bit every day, that really works for me.
Oh, me too. The constant push and pull of other people around me who need me, who want me, who I'm in relationship with. 100%. It's not all bad, totally. But that's a lot of pressure. Just the pushing and the pulling. If it never ends, if there's never 10 minutes where no one's tugging.
Just stillness. And that doesn't have to be I can't meditate very much because my mind, I just never have been able to. Mm-hmm. But that's my meditation is, stepping away into my corner. I'll find a couch where I'll settle in, or I'll step outside, sit in the garden at night, look at the stars, listen to music, but just something where I get time to decompress.
Me too. Last question. This is a question I actually ask all my guests every series, and I learned it from a priest that I love. Her name is Barbara Brown Taylor. Anyway, you can answer this however you want. We just runs the gamut between serious or just absurd. So you pick. But she asks the question, what is saving your life right now?
What is saving my life right now?
Like people have said pickles. So I just want you to know you have a huge variety of answers at your fingertips.
I think sweats.
Oh God. I have them on right now.
Me too.
Oh.
I have never worn so many sweats, and I can't
Same.
tell you the joy of wearing
Joy.
them. I have all kinds of sweats. Most of my Christmas presents were sweats. It really
amazing.
is saving my life.
I mean, it really is saving mine as well. I sometimes go into my closet and I look at everything and go, I've missed you. Like, what even are you? It's been so
I don't
long
know
since I've
you.
taken you off a hanger. I don't know. But if you can't duplicate what these sweats are doing for me, then I'm kind of
Good.
uninterested
But I
in
don't
continuing our
think- yeah.
relationship. Yes.
Me too. I've kind of broken up with all my other clothes.
Same. I call them button pants, and I'm like, why did I ever love you? I'm so happy to meet you, and I'm really proud of you for your work. I love your book. Can you just tell my listeners real quickly where they can find it, where they can find out more about you and just everything?
Well, I mean, you can find my book anywhere you find books, I guess, Amazon, Barnes and Nobles. And I hope that the readers who come across it, get to know me a little bit, but also see the journey of someone who's self-made and comes from very non-assuming backgrounds. And, if I can do it, you can do it, anyone can do it. And I hope that, the book is a little bit of a ride, and I hope people enjoy it. But this is my way of hoping that people get to know me a little bit more.
I love it, and they will, because you really did a lovely job of being genuine and sincere, and every word reads that way. So well done, you. Well done. Okay, delighted to meet you. Thanks for being on.
Thank you so much.
Absolutely. Bye-bye. You too.
Bye.